In this age of new normal, online is not your only option. Because new normal means new learning modalities and new learning possibilities. Let Vibal make learning offline possible with Smart Class. Smart Class contains pre-made daily modules sequenced according to DepEd's budgeted teaching and learning calendar. Each module has a specific lesson duration and has day markers to guide parents and teachers in the asynchronous learning of learners. Inside the modules available in Smart Class, you will find the following elements. First, learning competencies are identified in the module openers. Kickstarters are available to test students' prior knowledge on the subject matter. This set of activities, found at the beginning of each lesson, may also serve as motivational activities. Parents of preschool to grade 2 students will also find notes to parents which contain tips and pointers on how they can guide their child while learning at home. Redefine your students' learning experience with the integration of augmented reality technology into images and illustrations available in Smart Class, making learning more interactive and exciting. At the end of each module, Long Quiz is also available to assess students' understanding of the lesson. Smart Class also features Wrap Up, a lesson ender activity that applies the constructivism theory of learning. In Wrap Up, students are expected to summarize the lesson on their own using a graphic organizer. You may also evaluate the quality of your students' learning by letting them practice their learning in real life through GRASP's formatted performance tasks. The content of Smart Class is designed for the entire academic year, and it is available for 5 major subjects. All aligned with DepEd's K-12 curriculum and covers the most essential learning competencies prescribed by DepEd. Secure your own copy of Smart Class before classes open. Contact marketing@vibalgroup.com to know more.
Good day, Karibal, and welcome to our Developing Diagnostic Instruments webinar series. For the discussion this afternoon, our topic will be on developing assessment tools for decoding skills of young learners. Before we begin, take note of the following reminders. First, make sure you are registered to the webinar to have your e-certificate of participation. Visit certificate.vibalgroup.com to generate your proof of attendance. Place your question in the comment box allotted during the session and they will be addressed by our speaker later on. Share the video using hashtag LearnAs1PH as our official hashtag to our Vibal webinars. Experience learning, Kabibal. And now to proceed with our webinar this afternoon, it is my pleasure to introduce to you our distinguished speaker for today. Brother Roderick Aguirre is a consultant and evaluator of K-12 Philippine Basic Education Curriculum, and he is also the academic consultant for Sisters of Mary Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Brother Roderick M. Aguirre.
Good afternoon, teachers and parents out there. So welcome again to a continuation of our week series on diagnosis. And yesterday, last night, I talked about how to create teacher-made assessment tools on vocabulary, diagnosing students' um, vocabulary levels. And I'm gonna continue that today, this afternoon, which is now focusing more on decoding. And we understand that vocabulary or lexical knowledge is under a bigger perspective, which is under decoding. And decoding skills help our students be able to comprehend whatever they're reading. Okay, to start with, I would like to share with you my PowerPoint presentation, and I'm kind of excited though because I did a little bit of changes with the PowerPoint presentation in terms of the graphics. I have a different background though, but just happy, doing and trying out a lot of things. So it's moving, all right? So this afternoon, I'll be talking about developing tools to diagnose decoding skills of young learners. And it is very important for us to know how well our students are decoding. And we have to be mindful that our students from preschool up to grade 3 in the K-12 curriculum, they are beginning readers. And therefore, if we encounter students who are in grade 1 and in grade 2 who are still struggling readers or non-decoders, I think that's something that we need to think about. Like at the end of the key stage 1, at the grade 3, that's when we try to diagnose whether they're already decoders, because we assume that when they enter the second key stage, which is in grade 4 to grade 6, grade 4 to grade 6, that is when our students are already considered to be readers. And therefore, on that note, we need to assess and diagnose the decoding skills. That would include, of course, the vocabulary that we discussed last night and the comprehension diagnostic tools that will be discussed along within this week. That would be in one whole assessment tool, so that we would know how to proceed in the middle grades, and we're able to ascertain if our students have already acquired the beginning reading skills that they were supposed to master from preschool up to grade 3. On that note, if our students are still struggling readers, still non-decoders at the end of the first key stage at the grade 3, then we could say that our teachers failed to explicitly teach the skills to our students. And research shows that the USAID did a lot of research in the Southeast Asian and the world, found that there's a tremendous data that shows the connection between early literacy to later life reading activity for lifelong learners, its effect on the student. So we need to make sure that our students have decoding skills, master decoding skills in the early grades, so that they do not struggle and be able to achieve academically and be able to become independent learners, okay? And of course, become, self-seeking individuals and looking for information so that they can, learn for themselves. On that note, I would like to share our flow of discussion for this afternoon. Of course, we will start with a myth. I just identified 3 most common myths and statements from teachers and parents alike about the importance of decoding and importance of reading in general as well. And then I'll present to you a context situation. It's published online of a particular selection, and we will find out how decoding is important in reading comprehension. And then we will proceed to our discussion basically on understanding the sub skills or the set skills. I don't want to call it sub skills because for me, all the skills in reading are very important, whether they are decoding skills, vocabulary skills, whether they are language comprehension skills or schema skills, but I just call them set skills. All of these set skills are important for our students to be able to comprehend in any material they're going to read. And then in discussion, we're going to I will present to you how I did. Again, this is my experience and experience in how to create instruments, diagnostic instruments for students. I've been doing this for Sisters of Mary and all other schools that I handled. And I will teach you how, step by step, how to assess, to create a diagnostic tool, not tool, in order to specifically identify, diagnose which area in the set skills in the decoding our students have problems with. Last night, we already talked about vocabulary. I hope that you tuned in last night, but if you haven't, you can always go back to it so that you can learn how vocabulary diagnosis can be integrated in the holistic perspective of early literacy diagnosis, especially in the early grades. All right. And then we proceed to open forum. So if you have questions and clarifications along the way, do not hesitate to key in your questions or clarifications on the comments box below so that we can entertain those questions during the open forum session. And finally, I'll just present to you some research results about the importance of decoding and diagnosis, early diagnosis of decoding skills of our students so that we can provide some intervention programs for our students as they move up to the next grade levels. And now let's begin with introduction. Let me present to you some 3 common myths and statements of about decoding and its importance to reading comprehension, and we're going to bust them and must bust them and by providing certain explanations for each statement. Let's begin with statement number 1. All right. A lot of teachers out there, especially for the middle grades and the higher grade levels like junior high school and senior high school, I commonly hear this from a lot of teachers and even parents that phoneme awareness is a consequence, not a cause of reading acquisition. Meaning that when by teaching our students reading comprehension, eventually our students will acquire phonemic awareness. No, phonemic awareness should be one of the one of the foundation skills of reading, and it's not the byproduct of reading acquisition. All right, I would say it's the other way around, that we need to teach our students phonemic awareness skills so that it will contribute to their accelerating prowess in reading, and therefore it is very important for the early grade teachers, especially starting from preschool up to grade 3, that we come up with good activities to provide our students with a foundation of phonemic awareness, and it's one of the sub skills, again, one of the set skills of decoding. All right, so statement number 1 is busted, and that's the plus mark. Statement number 2. There will always be a percentage of children who don't learn to read regardless of the teaching methods used. A lot of teachers would tell me before that, sir, nagawa ko na pong lahat. Talagang normal lang po talaga na mayroong 1 hanggang 5 mga estudyante or minsan 10 na mga estudyante na hindi matututo ng pagbasa dahil nga sa daming estudyante na hawak ko, o tsaka hindi naman po lahat ng estudyante ay talagang nakikinig. No. If we follow the program of teaching reading, starting from the foundations up to the critical and creative reading skills, then it will be easy for all students to be able to read. If we start teaching our students decoding skills towards language comprehension and towards reading comprehension in general, therefore, there will be no student will be left behind. I think one of the many problems out there is that our teachers in the early grades have not been thoroughly taught as to how to proceed and which of those set skills should be given emphasis on a certain grade level so that our students, all of them, become beginning readers. All right, and I believe that the Department of Education should give a lot of attention to providing our early grade teachers in the preschool up to grade three lots and lots of trainings on beginning reading. Alas, the problem with our elementary early grade teachers from preschool to grade three is that they are teaching other subject areas, especially in the private schools. They are self-contained. Some schools are self-contained, where one teacher teaches all the subjects. What happens is that the teacher is so overwhelmed with many things to teach. I would suggest that we just focus more on literacy and numeracy in the early grades instead of other subjects that uh, how can students be able to understand concepts, be able to read in science, be read in other subject areas in the early grades if they are not yet literate. So therefore, I am suggesting that we look into the curriculum for the early grades. I believe that the focus of the early grades, especially elementary, primary, that would be preschool up to grade three, would be literacy and numeracy. That's why it's called ELLN, language, literacy, and numeracy. All other subjects can be integrated in the mathematics and numeracy subjects in science, or just basically we come up with a literacy program where numeracy and all other concepts are integrated. At least with that idea, we can ensure that our students will all become literate at the end of the grade three, and they will enter in middle grades that they're all readers. Okay? Kaya lang po hindi, mga teachers po natin ay nagtuturo pa ng ibang mga subjects, hindi lang po English at saka Filipino. In fact, hindi nga lang literacy yung tinuturo nila sa Filipino at saka English, nagtuturo pa sila ng grammar, balarila sa Filipino at sa English at sa may mother tongue po. So ano ba talaga ang focus natin sa pagtuturo sa preschool hanggang grade 3? Are we teaching them the language, or are we teaching them decoding in the language so that they become literate and acquire certain numeric skills? I think we have not thoroughly taught our teachers what's the focus of the curriculum of the early grades. And I think the central office should do a review on this. Okay, the results of the research about our students having low literacy is very, it's something that we need to look into. And there's a possibility that no matter how good our curriculum is, if it's not executed and rolled out really well through a lot of teacher trainings, then therefore statement number 2 will be existing for a long time here in the Philippines. Therefore, I would say that if we will provide a structure, a certain way of teaching beginning reading to our teachers out there, statement number 2 will be busted. Wala po, no student left behind. So, F goals po natin. And then last statement we have, it is too early to introduce literacy to very young children. I have friends who are parents, and I've been handling a lot of DSW trainings for SNPs, that's we call it supervised neighborhood play, and for child development center of volunteers, especially in Bicol. And some of the parents, I heard them saying that, sir, ang aga-aga po ng mga bata turuan ng literacy. Parang dapat maglalaro man sila. There's no such thing, okay? There is no such thing as too early. Even newborns can be taught literacy, but it does not have to be formal. The difference between literacy exposure to our students in the young age from 0 to 4 years old, and then 5 onwards would be the system in itself. From 0 to 4 years old, we expose our students to literacy, to sounds, to words, to the language itself, even counting through games, and therefore it's not formal. Students will not be, wag lang kayo magbigay ng mga assignments. Dapat nga talagang exposure lang, yung acquisition lang talaga. So through games, okay? The earlier, the better, but do not make it formal. Parents out there and teachers out there who are parents, you may introduce literacy, language and literacy and numeracy as a very young age, even at 0 years old, through songs, through shapes, through their toys. So they don't realize that they are already learning the concepts of literacy, beginning early literacy and numeracy and language, but they're enjoying. Okay, so the earlier, the better. Therefore, statement number 3 is busted. Okay. So let's analyze this so that we could see the connection between why decoding is very important as a foundation skill of reading comprehension. I would like us to look at this story. Okay, I'll read to you the story and then I'll ask you questions afterwards. This is just one paragraph, a two paragraph of a story. I'm not gonna present the whole story itself. So it says, Los Tres Cerditos. Erasi una vez que había una mamá cerda que tenía tres cerditos. Ellos los ama mucho, pero no había suficiente comida para alimentarlos. Así que los cerditos tuvieron que ir a buscar su suerte. El primer cerdito decidió ir al sur. Encontró a un granjero en el camino que estaba llevando un atado de paja. El cerdito preguntó respetuosamente, ¿podría por favor darme esa paja para que yo pueda construir una casa? All right, question. What is the story about? How many pigs are introduced in the first part of the story? What did the mother pig do or tell to the three little pigs? What did the eldest pig or the first pig say to the rest of the pigs and to the mother pig? So, ito po yun. Paano maiintindihan ng bata, makukomprehend niya ang selection kung hindi niya ma-decode ang vocabulary, ma-decode ang sounds, ang language ng isang salita, ng isang language. Decoding is very important for our students to understand the language. And by being able to decode the language, students now will be able to focus more on comprehension. But if our students are still non-decoders of the language, therefore, our students cannot understand. So, hindi nyo pwede sabihin na, sir, non-reader po ang bata. Uy, bakit po non-reader? Hindi nga niya maintindihan ng kwento dahil hindi pa niya alam ang language. Therefore, non-decoder po ang bata. Huwag po ba natin, mga kapatid? So, it is, when we say non-decoder, that means we need to teach our students decoding skills to understand the language, okay? The language of the reading material, that will be Filipino or English, or the mother tongue, so that they will be able to focus more on comprehension. That's why decoding skills is one of the foundations of reading comprehension. So yun lang example po natin. Sabi, sir, naintindihan ko ng picture. Okay, the picture, yes, it supports the comprehension. But then, ang mga tanong ko nga, hindi nyo masagot. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, hindi nyo maintindihan kung ilan ang sinabi. Sir Tres, nakalimutan nyo, may nanay po dyan. So, 4 silang pigs. Kasama si nanay, kasama yung 3 pigs, 3 little pigs. Ano pong sinabi? So, the point there is we need to teach our students decoding skills in their beginning reading so that our students will be able to focus more on comprehension. On that note, let's now find out if our students are decoders via diagnostic instruments. You can create your own diagnostic instruments. So let's start our discussion with, I prepared about 4 questions though. I will try my best to finish my talk on time about around 3:30. So that I know that all of you right now are really, especially for the teachers in the private schools, your class have already started. And for those who are in the public school, I know that you have 2 weeks to prepare for the opening of classes. Hopefully within these 2 weeks, for those who are in the public school, you can diagnose your students, especially for the grade 2 and grade 3 students, so that we will know you can still do something about their decoding skills. All right. So let's begin with question number 1. What is decoding? All right. So let us first understand decoding as in the process of teaching or developmental reading stages. We start with, of course, emergent literacy, that is from 0 to 4 or 5 years old, where our students are exposed to the environment. Therefore, the basis also of comprehension would be their background schema or their background knowledge, which they gain from their experiences from the environment. Therefore, students who have a lot of literacy activities at home in the community would have more inclination to easily learn how to decode because they have a lot of experiences. They can retrieve from their long-term memory to be able to give meaning to what they are reading. Okay, so I suggest that in the emergent literacy, especially for 0 to 5 years old, the preschool, is that we provide them with lots of literacy activities like talking to them, reading to them aloud, um, appropriate films, appropriate prime time perhaps, prime time shows, kagaya ng panahon namin, may batibot. Parang problema kasi sa emergent literacy sa mga bata natin ngayon, wala na kasi masyadong mga programa na pambata talaga. Ang mga programa na nasa television po natin, sa radyo natin ay puro pang matatanda. Nakalimutan na po natin ang para sa mga kabataan. Okay, na anong nangyari, ang lipunan po natin nakafocus na palagi sa pag-entertain ng mga adults when all of these materials are not developmentally appropriate for our students. Therefore, I would suggest that to help our teachers out there, the community, especially the tri-media, especially the local government, come up with lots of literacy activities for our students to experience before they enter school. Ano man lang yung mga tumbang preso, yung mga dating mga laruin ng mga bata, nakakatulong po yan sa emergent literacy ng mga bata. May paghuhugutan kasi experiences ng mga bata, especially for verbs and nouns. Once they encounter these concepts outside, like yung mga trees, plants, madali na nilang makikita yan, maririnig nila ang words na yon dahil encounter nila, ginagamit nila daily. And then pagdating sa school, pag tinuruan sila ng picture word association, ang decoding, or whole word reading, na makukuha agad ng bata kasi magkakaroon agad ng matching ng kanilang experience sa mga salita. But then our students kasi ngayon, especially with kids right now born po ngayon from 0 to 4 years old na sa pandemic, na konti lang experience nila sa outside. I think their emergent literacy will be, iikli ang mundo nila. So mas maganda po talaga na ang mga bata po natin are exposed to lots of literacy activities. Gusto ko yung sa Baguio. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna tell you a story about gusto ko sa Baguio is every Sunday meron silang family day at ang mga bata na pumunta sa Burnham Park. And then in the Burnham Park, you can find lots of things to see there. There's a man-made river ba yun? Or lake, man-made lake. Tapos mga trees, plants, and all. Kung ako po sa Baguio, para mas tumaas po ang literacy experiences pa ng mga bata na nag-expose sa Burnham Park or any place in the Philippines, may mga park, lagyan po ng mga labels. May mga labels naman po sila, pero hindi po siya ganun kalaki para sa mga bata. Para po, ang tawag po natin ay matching of the concepts matching the words with the concepts, person, and environment. If we can do that to all our environment, then natulungan na po natin ang mga teachers po natin, especially on decoding. Okay? Ang magiging sight words na ngayon sila. Okay? Magiging sight words. Kasi nakikita ng mga bata normally sa kanilang environmental print. Okay? So, yan lang sinasabi ko sa emergent literacy. Ang bata na konti lang ang experience sa experience outside the family, then magkakaroon siya yan po ang sinasabi po natin na posibleng matagal turuan ng pagbasa. Ito po ay kasama sa aking explanation sa student profiling, entry-level profiling, na dapat malaman po natin na ang bata na konti lang ang literacy activities before entering the formal school may struggle with beginning reading. Okay? So, para malaman po natin. Alright? So, after emergent literacy, those are background experience of our students out before the formal school, papasok na po ang beginning reading. Now, in the K-12 curriculum, our beginning reading program starts with the formal instruction starts with grade 1 to grade 3. Okay? So dito po tinuturo ang decoding skills sa mga bata. Kasama na po dito, of course, ang pag-connect ng decoding skills to language comprehension. Kasi nga, we're decoding in the language. So dito tinuturo ko ang decoding in mother tongue, decoding in Filipino, and decoding in English. The huge task, ang pinakamahirap lang po doon kasi there are 3 languages the students will be required to be able to read on, then medyo mahirapan talaga ang bata. At saka si teacher din mahirapan mag-focus. Saan ba talaga ako magbigay ng focus sa literacy? Well, on that note po, I think if the foundation for decoding has been placed in the mother tongue, it would be easier for our students to transition it to Filipino and in English, especially for mother tongue to Filipino or any languages in the Philippines to Filipino. Most of the sounds in the mother tongue are present in Filipino, and all the sounds in English are also present in also present in Filipino. Medyo marami-rami lang, pero syempre sa beginning reading po, sa English po, madadagdagan po yan as they grow, as they move on to the next grade level. The point here, ladies and gentlemen, is that the foundation for our students in grade 1 to 3 to read in English, Filipino, and the mother tongue would be decoding skills. All right? And diagnosis is very important. And then as they move on from the beginning reading, pupunta na sila sa grades 4 to 6, rapid growth and development. Papasok na po sinabi natin kahapon, kagabi, pinag-usapan natin that vocabulary now is extended. Ito yung sinasabi na pagdami ng vocabulary ng bata, extending their core vocabulary into synonyms, antonyms, collocations, and associations. Parami na po. With the base, with the core base of the vocabulary na natututunan ng bata sa beginning reading. And then they proceed to junior high school. Okay, reading to learn na po sila kasi they are now, reading rapid growth development, it's 3 to 4 or 5 years old. Reading to learn would now be on grade 5 and 6, even grade 7 approximately. And then where students now are learning, transferring their reading skills to reading in other subject areas. And then eventually when they enter high school, but preferably or at grade 8, senior high school, our students now are independent readers. Well, that's how reading development station should go, but the actual happening in the field is quite different. I would say because our teachers have not been thoroughly trained to do this. So I hope that the divisions would come up with trainings every now and then to provide our teachers with the necessary skills to be able to teach reading to our students. All right. So decoding then, based on that definition on the developmental reading stages, we can now say that decoding is the process of translating print into speech by rapidly matching letter or combination of letters, that's grapheme, so that they would know the sound system of the language and be able to match that to the letters and be able to combine these letters to form words, to their sounds, the phonemes, and then recognizing the patterns that make syllables and words. There's an area in the brain that deals with language processing and does this process automatically. Therefore, if our students are thoroughly taught that sounds are represented by letters and that a word is composed of letters and sound combination, they will now be able to know that they will now be able to decode words. And dagdagan po natin na pagtuturo sa kanila ng pattern. Sa Filipino po, ang pattern po ay nasa pantig, while in the English is the whole word pattern po natin. So if our teachers know about the difference between the pattern of Filipino, mother tongue, and English, then it will be easy for them to teach them. And I think it's in the curriculum. But again, even if it's in the curriculum, if our teachers have not been thoroughly trained, wala rin pa naman po. So that's our definition of decoding. So nagsisimula po sa speech. Ibig sabihin po, ang foundation po ng decoding ay nagsimula po sa listening and speaking. Therefore, before our students start learning to decode in the language, say Filipino and English, dapat napag-uusapan o nagagamit na nila sa kanilang oral communication. It's very important then that oracy is developed, listening and speaking of the language is developed before we teach them how to read. That's why in the K-12 curriculum, may oracy muna. Unahin muna ang oracy para kung ano ang mga words na natutunan nilang mapakinggan at masalita, ito po ang gagamitin din po natin sa pagtuturo sa pagbasa. Ang problema nga lang po, ang mga teachers po natin, hindi nga din sila nagkakaroon ng inventory ng vocabulary. So dapat may inventory po kayo teachers ng mga vocabulary na tinuturo at natutunan ng bata sa oracy or listening and speaking. And then yung mga salita na yun din po gagamitin natin para i-transition towards reading and writing. Alas, minsan nakikita ko po sa field kung ano ang ginagamit ng mga salita ng mga teachers during conversations and discussions, hindi rin naman din ito mga salitang ginagamit sa pagbasa at pagsulat. Teaching, reading, and writing. Okay, let's proceed now to the second question. The second question is, what is the importance of decoding to reading? Okay. So, I'll be using again the cognitive foundations of learning to read by Ren Sebastian way back in 2001. This has been the framework that I've been using for creating instructional materials for the early grades, for in beginning reading, and for diagnostic instruments. So Ang goal po talaga natin in diagnosing our students' weaknesses and strength in reading is for us to know whether they will be able to comprehend what they are reading. And then for us to know that they will have problems or they have problems with reading comprehension, we need to assess them on the two components or two set skills that students have must have required in the early grades. We have, of course, language comprehension and then decoding. And for this afternoon, we'll just focus on decoding, although I will touch a little on language comprehension as well. Under language comprehension, there will be two set skills. We have the background knowledge and we have the linguistic knowledge. Under linguistic knowledge, we have the students' knowledge about sounds, that will be phonology, the sounds of sentence structure, and then we have, of course, meaning. So ibig sabihin, dapat matutunan ng mga bata ang tunog ng mga alpabeto ng wika na yon para matutunan niya mag-decode. Kasi hindi naman natuturo natin ng sounds, hindi niya malalaman kung paano mag-decode. Okay, now under decoding, we have two set skills. We have the cipher knowledge and we have the lexical knowledge. The lexical knowledge I already discussed yesterday, and I'm going to last night, and which I will incorporate to my discussion today on decoding in general. So we have phoneme awareness, and we have knowledge of alphabet principle, and we have letter knowledge. Last night, we talked about letter knowledge by when we want to diagnose the letter knowledge of our students and knowledge of alphabet principle, we are going to assess our students using the matrix of the alphabet, using the Marunko approach, and they're going to tell us the names of the letters and the sounds of the letters. So, importante po yun na alam ng mga bata. Okay? And then concepts about print could be directionality, how do you hold the book, and so on and so forth. You may want to go back to a discussion on profiling, nandun po yun. All right? So let's just summarize our discussion on that. So decoding is important because it is the foundation on which all other reading instruction builds. If students cannot decode words, okay, their reading will lack fluency, their vocabulary will be limited, and their reading comprehension will suffer. Foundation nga eh. Okay? Teaching higher level reading strategies to students stuck at the word level is ineffective. We might as well be banging our heads against a wall. Kaya ang sakit po ang hirap na hirap po talaga ang mga teacher na sa grade 4, 5, 6, even in high school, pag ang mga bata non-decoders or struggling in decoding. Kasi nga hindi nabigyan ng focus ang pagtuturo ng decoding sa early grades. Foundation po yun. That should be taught from preschool up to grade 3. Pag hindi po, kahit anong turo ng reading strategies ng grade 4, grade 5, grade 6, teaching reading across content areas, comprehension of informational text, of narrative text, wala po. Bakit? Non-decoder pa ang mga bata. Paano nga nila matututunan ng higher forms of reading strategies kung hindi pa sila decoders? Wala rin. Kaya yan po ang pinakamalaking problema natin sa field. How are we going to help our students become independent learners while learning at home when they are still not struggling decoders? Diagnose po natin sila. So, what are the decoding skills that young learners must acquire in the early grades? Ito po yung ngayon ang mga components. Okay? Components na dapat natin ma-diagnose among our students. Okay? So, again, reading comprehension is our goal. And for our students to be able to focus more on reading comprehension, they must have language comprehension skills, all right? The language comprehension skills would be, we have background knowledge and we have the phonological awareness. We have phonological awareness. We have syntax awareness, and we have semantic awareness. So all of this must be taught to our students in the language comprehension. Also, we need to teach them decoding skills, and that's the focus for our discussion this afternoon. And then, of course, we have vocabulary knowledge. So vocabulary knowledge, ibig sabihin, ang pinaka-importante talaga, matutunan ng mga bata, i-attack ang mga salita. And kailangan po ng salita na yon ay pag naturuan na po natin ng mga bata na mga salita na to, ang mga estudyante po ay magkakaroon ng skills sa language comprehension at saka sa decoding. Therefore, they will now be able to focus more on reading comprehension. Let's focus on the decoding skills, all right? Now, the decoding skills is divided into two set skills. We have vocabulary knowledge, which we discussed last night. So we will just focus on the early grades kasi decoding dapat hanggang early grades. Dapat naturo talaga ng mga teachers from grade 1 to grade 3 thoroughly ang ang decoding skills. Ang vocabulary po kasi natin, nag-extend po siya hanggang senior high school po yan kasi dire-diretso talaga siya. Okay? So in the early grades, the focus of vocabulary knowledge would be word meaning skills, focusing on denotation, labeling po tayo talaga dyan. Namamatch pa ng bata ang salita sa tamang kahulugan o konsepto nito. And then we have word structure skills, phonics, sight words, and word patterns. We already discussed that last night about the phonics, sight words, word patterns. Today ko po ba ituturo sa inyo kung paano ginagawa yun. Kasi ang word patterns po is a combination of both vocabulary and cipher knowledge. So, dalawa po ang ina-assess natin. So, I opted that the word patterns be taught this afternoon kung paano ginagawa. Medyo komplikado lang ng konti, but don't worry, ginawa ko na po para sa buong Pilipinas. Next would be phonological awareness. Under phonological awareness, dapat i-assess po natin ang mga bata natin. Ang basic ng phonological awareness would be syllable awareness. Alam ba ng bata ilang syllable pero ng isang salita? So, activities like clapping, magtuturo sa mga, okay, let's clap. How many syllables are there in the word caterpillar? Caterpillar. Caterpillar. So, mali yung pagkakaturo po ng mga teachers sa sub-skills po ng phonological syllable awareness is ginagawa niya pong syllabic time. Sa Filipino, pwede pong sabihin bahay, bahay. Pero ang kabayo ay hindi po kabayo. Pag clap po daw natin at pag count ng syllables must be the way it's pronounced. Kasi nga, decoding is matching the word to speech. So we do not say kabayo, we say kabayo. So kung paano bigkasin ang salita, ganun din daw pagturo po natin ng clapping para matutunan ng bata ang number of syllables in a word. So kung paano po ang bigkas ng bawat pantig sa salita ng Filipino or syllables in English, ganun din daw din po ang speed ng clapping po natin. So bahay, pwede po yun. Pero pag kabayo, hindi po natin sasabihin nga kabayo. You're just counting but you are not teaching students the proper decoding skills for the number of syllables in the word kabayo. It should be kabayo. Alright? In English naman po ay house. Caterpillar. It's caterpillar. So kung ano daw ang pagkabigkas, ganun din daw pagtuturo natin sa clapping. Clapping is a very active way of teaching our students syllables and then retaining in their head that the number of syllables plus how it's pronounced correctly. Hindi nyo pwedeng i-separate po ang skill ng counting syllables and being able to pronounce it properly. Nakuha po natin. Kaya mga bata ngayon, naririnig ko pag nagbabasa, para talagang syllable. Kasi tinuruan ng pag-syllable na wak, pak, 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 pak. Ang bata ay napunta sa mga, kasi hindi nga tinuruan ng tamang, tinuruan ng bata ng syllable awareness, pero hindi naman tinuruan ng tamang pronunciation. And accentuation and intonation. Kasama po yan sa phonological awareness. Okay? Next would be we have the phonemic awareness. Now, alam ba ng bata pag nagbago ang tunog? Ito yung mga rhymes po. End rhymes. We have beginning rhymes, initial rhymes. We have initial sound rhyme. So dapat tinuturuan na natin ng mga bata to recognize that pag nagbago ang mga tunog sa isang salita, nagbabago din po ang kahulugan. Okay? So yan po dapat i-test. So these are the components of decoding skills. We will start with word patterns kasi to continue our discussion about vocabulary knowledge towards cipher knowledge. And then I will teach you how to create phonological awareness assessment, diagnostic tools, and phonemic awareness para po you can create your own assessment tools out there. Okay. So let's now have, sorry, I'm just checking my time kasi nga goal ko talaga na makatapos ako on time. So 40 minutes. I still have about 50 minutes. Okay. So ano po tayo? We are now on the last question. See, we're almost the last question. Pero i-detalye ko muna kung paano gumawa ng mga, sorry for the hair. Okay. How are teacher-made assessment tools for decoding in the early grades created? Okay. Let us begin with word structure knowledge, word patterns. Okay, here's how we do it. First, create nonsense. We call them as nonsense words out of the identified word patterns which early graders are expected to master. Ang gusto nating matutunan natin dito ay na kaya ba ng bata i-decode ang mga salita, ang mga tunog base sa patterns. Ito po ay magkaiba sa sight words. The sight words na didiscuss po natin last night ay mga salita na hindi kailangan i-decode. Dapat ang tawag po natin doon ay whole word reading sa sight words. Ibig sabihin ito mga salita na highly occurring in all reading materials at hindi kailangan i-decode dahil hindi sila nag-fit sa mga patterns. Like THE, yung the, okay? So, So, para sa nonsense word diagnostic creation, dapat gagawa tayo ng mga nonsense words that represent the patterns. Okay, so by that we will now be able to isolate whether students have mastered decoding using word patterns. Okay, so kung hindi nakapag-decode, bumagsak ang bata so word patterns, anong ibig sabihin nun? Wala po tayong magawa. Ang ibig sabihin po nun, hindi naturo sa kanila ang word patterns. Ano mga word patterns? Yung CVC, consonant, CVC, consonant, vowel, consonant pattern, CVC, silent E pattern. Sa Pilipino po naman ay pangapantig, pantig po na patinig, katinig, patinig, ganun po. Alright? Then once you have created the nonsense words which represent the word patterns in English and Filipino. Sa atin po dito, ang ginawa ko, nagsama ko ang English and Filipino na patterns. Okay? And once you have created those patterns, you are now going to place the nonsense words in random order in 5 entries per row in a 10-row table. Alright? So, 5 salita kada row, pero ang kanyang, ang row niya ay 10. So, all in all, you have 50 entries. Okay? And, okay, 50 entries po ito. And then, next would be to administer it. To administer this assessment, providing the learner with an example how the activity is done. So, bago maggawa ang bata, dapat magpapakita ka muna ng mga sample po na nonsense words. Tapos, ikaw muna magpapakita sa bata kung paano ginagawa yon. Second, ang bata naman, tapos, so tatlo palagi na example para makita po na naintindihan ng bata ang instructions. Kasi there's no point of going through the activity if our students hindi niya nagawa ng tama ang activity, then hindi niya naintindihan ang instructions. We would like to be clear about our instructions so that we can focus on isolating that skill. All right? Then point the direction in which she will have to read the nonsense word. So left or right. So dapat nakaharap. No, sorry po. So kunwari ito po ang ating prompt sa mga bata. So dapat nakapaharap sa kanila. Sabi mo, anak, you're going to start reading those words. Okay, these words, they do not mean anything at all from your left going to the right. Then move to the next row, left to the right, left to the right. So kailangan mo talagang ituro kung paano ginagawa. Why? We want to be clear na klaro po ang instructions sa mga bata. May mga teachers na nakita kong ginagawa ay okay, on their own. Hindi pwede. Kailangan orally delivered po ito. Sir, wala po kami sa bahay. Then you'll have to train the parents. Sir, ang mga parents po kasi ayaw naman maging honest. But yun yung problema natin. Sa pandemic na pa to, diagnosis is very crucial for teachers to know, to identify saan pa may kulang sa mga bata. So kailangan malaman ng mga magulang na ang diagnosis na to ay hindi ginagamit sa pagtaas ng grade o pagbaba ng grade ng kanilang mga anak. Kung dito ay nakakatulong po sa feedback or information sa mga teachers kung ano pang area ang dapat bigyan ng emphasis para matutunan ng bata ang maging decoder before they move up to grade 3. So sana partnership pong tawag natin doon. Okay? Give the instructions how to proceed. Kagaya ng sinabi ko, papakita sa bata, may print out talaga kayo nun. You may switch to mother tongue or Filipino if the learner is having difficulty understanding the instructions in English. Since our students are not yet fluent and proficient in the language, say Filipino or English, so pwede mong sabihin sa bata ang instruction sa Filipino or mother tongue para ang focus nga natin is naintindihan ng bata instructions. Okay? So let's have an example. So this is the pattern that I was talking about. So ito po yung mga patterns po natin, yung order na pagtuturo ng patterns ng salita. All teachers in the elementary, in the grades 1 to grade 3, alam ko memorize niyo po yung order po natin. So we start with single vowel in English, consonant pattern po natin ay consonant vowel, single vowel. Ang sample po niyan sa English ay I. Okay? Yung kahit 3 letters po yan, isa lang po ang sound niya, I. Okay? Sa Filipino naman po ay pantig. Okay? Aso, Alright? Patinig. So susunod naman po na pattern po natin is we have the vowel consonant or VC. We have up and then 8. Okay? Up and 8. Tapos sa Filipino po ay ma, ta. Okay? Then we have sa consonant vowel naman, we have goose. Okay? Consonant vowel. My. Aklat. Dapat hindi pa yan goose pala. Go and see. Dalawa palang word yan. Go, see. Aklat, AK. Sa vowel po naman, sa consonant vowel CVC pattern, we have the dog, sap, and then pun. Sana naman sa Filipino naman ay pantig na sak. Okay, CVC po na. O kaya la. Consonant vowel, consonant silent naman. O CVC silent D pattern, we have care and make. I don't know if we have in Filipino silent E pattern, but again, I'm not an expert in Filipino, pero wala pa akong nahanap. Kasi kinuha ko po yan sa Filipino literature. Wala pa akong nahanap. And then we have the... Sorry. Okay. And we have the initial double consonants, consonant, initial double consonant, and we have the final double consonants, mga clusters. Ang tawag po natin doon ay initial consonant clusters and final consonant clusters. KKP, PKK, KKPK, KPKK. So kagaya na po ng mga samples na yan. So lahat, hindi po ganyang salita ang ibibigay natin sa bata. We're going to represent all of these patterns in a nonsense word na ang kalalabasan po ay kaya ba ng bata basahin o decode ang mga salita na kahit walang kahulugan, kaya niya pa rin i-sound out kasi alam na niya ang patterns. Okay? Ito po yung sample na ginawa ko. Alright? So ito po yung student copy. Again, naka-print out po yan. Tapos ilalaminate nyo po para hindi po masisira kasi palagi nyong gamitin. So yun. So yung does is a CVC pattern. Okay? Yung old o ode is a consonant vowel pattern. Vowel consonant pattern. So lahat ng po itong samples na to na nonsense words ay mga nonsense words based on the patterns, both Filipino and English. You have does, ode, yat, merst, brish, zom, quith, nif, jaff, fing, taste. We call it taste because you have CVC silent E pattern. So Latin dral is we have the initial double consonant cluster. And then we have moat. Again, this is a CVC. So ano po yan? Randomly created. So basahin lang po natin para alam po natin kung paano basahin mga salita nito. So we have does, ode, yat, merst, brish, zom, quith, nif, jaff, fing, taste, drawl, moat, veet, tob, skrel, fad, clay, nail, oid, rig, trenk, bland, past, gry, crut, oni, stive, pluv, foot, ditch, plick, phobe, splod or splud, splod or splod, sant, kais, wonk, nez, shump, nex, stran, shell, wat, wabe, prol, wof, throm, wash, swalt, drosh. Okay? So ang gagawin po dito na ngayon ay ipapakita niyo sa bata ito, ipapakita sa mga bata, and then you're going to ask students to read all of those words. Okay? Huwag niyo na pong i-time kasi nga we would like to, although pwede nyo i-time po ito for 1 minute, pero para sa kasi huwag na munang i-time kasi you would like to diagnose kung ano po ang patterns na hindi pa na-master ng bata. So mas gusto ko po sana na mas makuha ng bata lahat para makita po natin consistently kung ano ang pattern na kailangan pa natin ituro sa mga bata. Right? So kunwari sa grade 3, nasa kaligitnaan ng grade 3 or kaya ngayon papasok ng grade 3, ideally kasi dapat ito ay nasa at the end, the middle of grade 3 or at the end of grade 3. Lahat hindi niya nakuha. Ano ngayon ang interpretasyon natin? Hindi naturuan ng word patterns ang ating mga estudyante mula grade 1 hanggang kalagitnaan ng grade 3. Ganun lang po kasimple. Why? Word patterns are taught explicitly to our students. And if they are not taught explicitly, they will not be able to read this. Okay? So very important. This is a very good assessment tool for our students. So here's a question though. Sir, pwede po namin gamitin yan? Pwede niyong gamitin po yan, pero ginawa ko po yan para sa USAID at ginawa ko po yan para sa EGRA ng Department of Education. And I think if you're gonna use this, it has already been standardized. So pwede niyo pong you need to ask first permission for Department of Education, but this is partly mine too because I designed it using ginamitan ko po yan kasi ng analysis on point and manner of articulation and then word patterns. It's para akong nag-thesis niyan. Anyway, the point here is that you can create your own. Mas importante lang po ay alam niyo po yung mga patterns. Okay? Alamin niyo lang yung patterns. Saan po namin makukuha yung mga patterns? The word patterns in Filipino and English are downloadable on the net. So yung word patterns po in English, pwede nyo kunin yung sa internet. Kung sa patterns naman po sa Filipino po, ay pwede nyo kunin sa makabagong orthography ng Filipino na ilalabas po ng Komisyon ng Wikang Filipino. Yun po naman ang sinusunod natin para sa curriculum po natin o pagtuturo ng mga decoding skills in the language of Filipino ay ginagamit natin ang materials na nilabas ng Komisyon ng Wikang Filipino. So, for us to be able to create decoding of nonsense, decodings to assess the decoding skills of our students using word patterns po yan, sa mga SAT skills po yan, is we're going to use the patterns and create nonsense words that should not represent a word. Okay? It must not represent a word. If the word na na-create po ninyo represents a word, then baka ang nabasa ng bata dahil recognize na niya yung word. What we are trying to assess here is that can they decode based on patterns, not because they recognize the word. Naintindihan po natin, magkaiba po ang diagnosis for sight words kasi dapat nare-recognize nila talaga yon. But for nonsense words is we're assessing specifically, we are isolating whether they can decode unfamiliar words using their knowledge of word patterns. Okay? Di pa ako galit. So ito naman po ang ang tawag po natin ay student response sheet na hawak-hawak ng teacher o ng magulang habang binabasa ngayon ng mga magulang ito, ng mga bata ito. Pag mali ang bata, just come up with your own markings. It could be a slash, it could be an X, a cross mark. Basta ito pa yung nagsasabi na hindi niya nakuha yung pattern, yung word na pattern na yun. Tapos kung saan siya nag-end, kunwari pagod na sila kasi dapat 1 minute lang talaga to. Kasi hindi mo malalaman kasi ang automaticity at speed. Fluency kasi tinitingnan natin dito. So, okay, fine. Let's go for 1 minute. And then after 1 minute, kung saan lang siya natapos, hanggang dun lang siya. Ibig sabihin, ang bata po ay may problema siya sa fluency. Okay? Ibig sabihin, wala pa siyang automaticity at saka word attack skills. Okay? So, student response sheet. You'll be given a copy of this though, pero you'll have to request from Vibal a copy of this. Okay, let's now proceed to cipher knowledge. Now, if you have questions about word pattern creation of decoding of word patterns, or creating diagnostic tool to assess decoding of students on word patterns or their knowledge on word patterns, please key in your questions on the comments box below. All right. Next, we have cipher knowledge, the phonological and phonemic awareness. What you can do to create the cipher knowledge on phonological and phonemic awareness is you're going to list 10 common nouns in various categories like parts of the body, members of the family, color, shapes, and so on and so forth in the community. And then select pictures. Sorry, that's not the one. Okay, sorry. Let's define first. Phonemic and syllable awareness. We have phonemic means that it is the ability to identify and manipulate individual sounds or phonemes in a spoken words. And then syllable awareness involves activities like counting, tapping, blending, or segmenting words in their own syllables. So dapat alam ng bata ang mga unang tunog, gitnang tunog, huling tunog, tapos kung ilan ang syllable ng salita na yun. So our instrument should be, our diagnostic tool should be, we are going to present to our student 10 words, okay, 10 words, and then we are going to ask students what is the initial sound of the word, and then they are going to clap how many syllables there are in a word with the right pattern. Okay? Example. Ito palang instruction ko, sorry. List 10 common content words from different content areas. So you can get the words. So pwede kayong gumamit po ng libro po, ng module po ng Vibal or your own modules. Then extract words with different syllables and different patterns from the book, and then ilagay nyo po sa isang matrix. Okay? Next, to administer the assessment, Ask the student to listen to you. Ikaw magpo-pronounce. Wala pong ipapakita na salita sa bata. So this is syllable and phonemic awareness. So dapat magaling silang makinig. So after the second pronunciation, she will have to give the first sound of the word and clap how many syllables there are in the word. Do the same to the rest of the entries. Okay? Provide an example to practice the activity. Then record the responses of the learner in his or her response sheet. Okay, example po. Ito pa yung mga word. Truck, plant, mango, jar, boy, stairs, yellow, market, calendar, and pillow, which I got from the different materials books po ng Libal in grade 3. Okay, sample lang po. Kunwari kayong estudyante ko na ina-diagnose ko. Okay, I'm going to pronounce a word to you twice. After reading to you aloud or pronouncing to you the word twice, you are going to give me the first sound of the word, and you are going to clap to me how many syllables there are in a word with the right rhythm. Okay, let's have an example. Let's look at this word. I'll try first. Okay, listen carefully. Country. Country. Okay, the first sound of the word country is k. There are 2 syllables in country. Country. Okay, all right, now you go. What's listen to my word. Listen to me as I pronounce the word. Bat. Bat. So what's the first sound of the word bat? All right. How many syllables are there? Clap it for me. Good. Now, try the third one. Ano ba yung third one natin? Hindi ko makita eh. Sorry. Beautiful. Okay, again, listen. Beautiful. What's the first sound of the word beautiful? Good. Now clap to me how many syllables are there with the right rhythm. Very good. 3. So, kunwari tamang ginawa ng bata. So, truck. Isa-isay mo na ngayon. Okay, truck. Truck. What's the first sound of that word? Truck. Pag correct po ang kanyang sound po, pick niyo yung correct. Tapos kung tama po ang kanyang pag-clap sa syllable niya po, correct po, or kung hindi, incorrect po. Right? So, diyan po malalaman natin sa 10 words na yan kung alam ng bata ang mga initial sounds and then alam din ba niya ang syllable. So, in one activity, in one diagnostic instrument po dito, kaya ng 10 na po yan, we will now be able to diagnose the phonemic awareness and syllable awareness skills of our students. Okay, sir, kailangan po namin gamitin mga words na yan. It's up to you. I just want to be clear that these are the words that students have encountered in instruction. So, dapat book-based po ang mga salita po ninyo. Kung hindi po book-based po ito, kasi teacher-made po ito po ay dapat kinuha sa mga materials na ginagamit sa grades 1 to grade 3. So, randomly pick words from there. Content words po hindi po grammatical words. Huwag po kayong gumamit ng prepositions. Huwag po kayong gumamit ng articles. Tinawag po natin content words in the category of nouns, verbs, adjectives, and wag na po mag-adverbs. Hanggang adjectives lang po tayo. Okay? All right. Now, again, if you have questions about this, you may want to key in your questions so that later on I can answer that. Let's now proceed to rhyme awareness. Okay? Rhyme awareness is defined as it is another important phonological awareness task referring to the awareness of words that rhyme and words that do not rhyme. Rhyme production refers to the ability for students to think up words that rhyme with a given word. It's end rhyme, middle rhyme, or end rhyme. That's end rhyme or initial rhymes. Okay, rhymes production refers to the ability for students to think up words that rhyme with a given word, and it's also important phonological awareness task. Okay. So what do? Again, list 10 common content words from different content areas. Ganun din po. Kunin niyo po sa iba't ibang mga subjects ang mga words na to. All right. Now again, it should be based on book-based. So kunin po ito sa mga materials na nabasa ng bata mula grade 1 to grade 3. Okay, next. To administer the assessment, ask the student to listen to you to pronounce each word. Twice after the second pronunciation, he she will give the first sound of the word. Sorry, hindi po yan. Sorry, nagkamali na naman po ako. Ito po siya. Okay, you are going to list down four words in a row. Okay, four words in a row, and then one is not does not have the same rhyme. Yung sample ko po dito, 1 to 5 is in Filipino and 6 to 10 ay English. Hindi parang hindi po ako gumawa ng two separate instruments. Pero usually dapat po kung Filipino, Filipino hanggang 10. Kung English po, hanggang 10. Kung mother tongue, hanggang 10 po yan. Okay po? So, halimbawa, ginawa ko lang po ito kasi para po mag-save po ako ng slides. Okay? Pero dapat 10, one language lang po yan, then 10 another language. Halimbawa po, babasahin ng bata dapat na malakas. So, ito po ang instrument na papakita mo sa bata, nakaganyan po yan. Tapos sabi mo, okay, you're going to read per row. Okay, starting from the left, going to the right, babasahin mo mga salita. Tapos sasabihin mo sa akin, ano ang salita ang hindi katunog ng ibang salita sa hanay na yan. That's an po sa Filipino. Sige po. Tapos may sample pa kayo dapat. Okay? Kunwari nabigyan nyo po ang sample, hindi lang po ako nakabigyan ng sample kasi nga combination to. So kunwari sa number 1, kahoy, tuloy, bahay, baboy. Okay? So ano dapat ang tamang sagot? Ano? Bahay. Tama. Ano po siya? And rhyme. Okay. Ano pa sa taas mo? Okay. Ano bang anong hindi ano ang hindi sa hani na ito, anong salita ang hindi magkasing tunog ng ibang mga salita? Ano ang mga nagkakaparehong tunog sa mga salitang ito dito? Sabi para ma-analyze po ng bata ang kanilang rhymes. So laso, baso, kaso, asin, bahay, and so on and so forth. So babasahin ng bata bawat row, tatanungin mo sila kung anong basihan niya para malaman kung talagang nag-a-analyze siya ng rhyme. Baka naman nag-guess lang siya. Alright? Ito ipapakita mo sa mga bata kasi ito naman ang hawak mo. Ang hawak mo ay dalawang columns. You have the word, tapos rhyme awareness. Ibig sabihin ng word, tama po ba ang napili niya na salita na hindi dapat kasama sa grupo dahil iba ang kanyang rhyme. Halimbawa, sa statement number 1, tuloy. Dapat ang sagot niya end rhyme. Sir, paano po kung hindi end rhyme ang kanyang sinabi? Sabi niya, sir, kasi po yung huling tunog po ang magkakapareho po, sa kanya po hindi. So kahit ang kanyang sagot po ay nasa language na hindi English o kaya Filipino, tatanggapin po natin. Basta tama po yung idea. Okay? Ibig sabihin, na may skill siya noon. Baka may problema lang siya to express his ideas in the language. Okay? So kung tama po yung word na napili niya na hindi dapat kasama sa grupo, take po ninyo ang word, tapos kung tama po ang kanyang pagka-identify, correct po. Kasi ganito po yun. Kung tama po pagka-identify niya ng word, tapos bali naman ang kanyang pagkaano ng rhyme awareness, ibig sabihin, nag-guess lang siya. Nanguhula. Nang-guess, ang pangit naman ng aking language. Nag-guess lang kasi siya sa nagtusok-tusok na fishball. Nagaan lang siya. Ano ba ang guess sa Tagalog o sa Filipino? Nanghuhula. There we go. Same and so on and so forth. So in one activity, we will now be able to assess our students whether they can identify which word does not belong to the group in terms of similar sounds. And then we're going to identify if they know how to identify similarities of the words or group of words. Okay, this is what we call as an entry on decoding, specifically assessing our students on their rhyme awareness. Part din po yan siya ng phonemic awareness. Okay, next we have the, sorry. Okay, so in the end, the totality po, what we can do is, pag binigay po natin ang diagnostic instruments sa mga bata, huwag po sana natin gawing isa-isa. Pwede pong isang activity na po na lahat. So, ito po dapat ang parts. Sasamahin ko na po ang mga diagnostic tools na ginawa po natin kagabi at saka ngayon. So, pero yung comprehension skills po natin ay ngayon palang week po ibibigay po sa inyo paano ba gumawa ng mga diagnostic tools to assess comprehension. So isasama ko lang po ito. Dapat ito yung parts. Unahin po muna natin ang comprehension skills. Kasi yun pong goal po natin. So in your diagnostic tool for grade 3 or for grade 4, 5, 6 or high school, unang-una po natin ipapakita sa mga bata ay yung comprehension skills. So part 1, comprehension skills. We will start with listening activity. So we need to assess. Remember, we have already discussed that it is very important for us to assess if students can understand selection read to them aloud. Kasi ang listening comprehension um, has a good determining element or skill to determine whether they have good reading skills or they can acquire good reading comprehension skills. So after listening activity, dapat ang entry po natin sa comprehension skills ng part 1 would be reading activity. Okay, so silent reading po, babasahin, and then there will be comprehension questions. Just kagaya po ng diniscuss ko po nung nag-discuss ako on reading diagnosis last time. Okay. And then for part 2, we have decoding, okay? And then under decoding, we have the sight words. Those who have attended just now, the sight words, how to create sight word diagnostic tool. I discussed that last night on vocabulary or creating the diagnostic tools for vocabulary in the early grades and the middle grades. So hindi ko na po i-discuss ngayon kasi kahapon po yun sa vocabulary. So, how to create the sight words? Ang una po natin ibibigay sa decoding skills ay sight words. I'm just giving you a situation na explaining to you na pag binigay po natin ang diagnosis sa mga bata, isang buo pong test po yan. Okay? Then sight words po ito using either adult sight words or fries, ready sight words. Then susunod po yung nonsense words, yung pinakita ko sa inyo kanina, yung word patterns. We want to test whether students can decode unfamiliar words using their knowledge on word patterns. Yung sight words kasi is they can easily decode it, they can easily read it, okay, with automaticity because they have memorized. There's no other way to teach sight words but to drill them and to let them memorize it every day. All right? Next, we have phonemic and syllable awareness. Yung kanina ginawa po natin, mayroong papakinggan ng salita ang bata, twice mo sasabihin, tapos sasabihin ng bata yung unang tunog, tapos they are going to clap with the right pattern at rhythm ng kung ilan ang syllable ng word na yun. Alright? And then we have the rhyme awareness. Okay, under the rhyme awareness, we have, we're going to show to them, okay, we are going to show them four words in a column, and then he or she will your student will identify which word does not belong to the group, and then he or she is going to explain why that word should not be part in the group, and what pattern is similar to the remaining words. Rhyme awareness po natin, then tick the answers lang po. All right. And then finally, we have dictation. Dictation, as we already did that yesterday. Last night. This is also assessing our students' spelling, okay, spelling skills that we're supposed to dictate to them a simple sentence, not more than 10 words, and it should be read to them 3 times. On semantic level, the first dictation, on the smaller units level, on the second dictation, and we have word per word level dictation. Okay, I'll show to you how a material should look like. Okay, I'll just navigate outside of this. How do I stop share? It should look like that your students, it should be on a manual. We call it as a manual reading, a reading diagnostic manual for your students to be able to use. Okay, I'm just opening the material. On Momento. Okay. Ito po yung sample po natin. We have this. Okay. Can you see that? Alright. Ito po yung mga part, comprehension part po. For this is sample of grade 7. Ito po yung comprehension part ng mga bata. Tapos ito po yung sinasabi ko na listahan ng sagot ng mga bata. Susulat po yung mga sagot. So, dapat isang buo na po siya pag binigay natin sa bata, hindi yung part by part. I just delivered to you how to create the diagnostic instruments part by part because so that you would know how to create each component of the diagnostic instrument. I'll show you again another sample kasi yan po ay sa bata. Ito naman po ang hawak ng teacher. Okay, itong sa hawak ng teacher naman po ay, okay, here. This one I created for Sister Mary. Of course, I have the introduction. Kung kita niyo lang po, areas for diagnosis, we have concepts of print, we have letter sound, identification, letter sound, letter sound identification, then letter name po dapat yun. Okay? And then we have sight word reading, phonemic awareness, pseudo word reading, oral reading fluency, on Filipino and English. Dalawa po kasing test po yun. Both English and Filipino po ang ginawa namin na instruments. Alright. So, just a sample po ng yung test. Alright, yan. Sa unang-una muna, ang gagawin ay listening comprehension, di ba sabi ko? So, ilalagay nyo na po doon ang instructions para sa teacher how to deliver the instrument. So, this is not a time exercise. So, pati sasabihin ng teacher, ilalagay nyo na po. Bakit ko po ginagawa na pati sasabihin ng teacher? Again, your teachers are not trained diagnosticians. So, kailangan pong alam din nila kung paano i-deliver kasi kung bibigyan nyo ng manual na ganito, madali na po nilang i-deliver. Babasahin lang nila, alam nila i-deliver. Iba kasi ang gumawa ng instrument sa pag-deliver ng instrument. So, hindi lahat ng mga teachers were trained to create diagnostic instruments. So, kunwari nagawa na po natin to, ginawa ko itong diagnostic instruments po, tapos pinavalidate ko po sa mga experts. Ito po ay nilagyan ko na ng mga comments, ng mga statements na kung anong sasabihin ng teacher at paano niya i-deliver ang statements. Tapos, paano po i-score. Okay? Para klarong-klaro paano i-score. Para kahit nandun man ako, wala ako doon, kaya niya gamitin yung diagnostic instruments. And these diagnostic instruments, pag iniwan ko na po sa school, then they can use that anytime they like. Yung problema nga lang, hindi ko alam kung ginagamit nila. So kung hindi sabihin nila na, sir, hindi po namin ginagamit, wala na po akong magawa doon, ginawa ko na po sa inyo. Sa bagay, binayaran naman ninyo ako doon. But some of them ay gagawin ng ganito, hindi po ako nagpabayad. Talagang binigay ko for free ang diagnostic instruments na to para sa school ng Sister Mary. Now, those schools out there who do not have their own early diagnostic instruments for the early grades, for the middle grades, and for the high school, I know that there are few diagnostic instruments in reading and literacy, language reading and literacy in the Philippines for junior high school and senior high school. So it is very important for you to go back to my discussions, and then so that you can create your classroom-based materials in your own respective classrooms. Okay, so I hope you learned from how the process is done, and the creation of diagnostic instruments for literacy is not yet done. I just delivered vocabulary and decoding, so there will be other sessions this week. There's for comprehension, and my session for Friday will be for preschoolers. The use of ECCD as a diagnostic tool for us to understand which area or domain our preschoolers need to improve on as we progress on the school year, and how can ECCD be delivered in the new normal where the students are not at school. So can we deliver that online? Can we deliver that via modular instruction? All right. So sample lang po ito mga. I'm sorry, but I cannot provide you with this material kasi binigay ko na po to sa Sister Mary. So it's theirs. It's theirs already. So this is for high school. Nagawa po ako for high school. So I know that there are some public and private schools who would like to have a copy of this so that they can assess and diagnose their students' reading and decoding skills, especially for grade 7. This is for grade 7, 8, 9, and 10 na assessment na ginawa ko po para sa Sister Mary. So I hope, The way I taught you how it's created since last night and today is the same process how it's used, only that the words must be based on the textbook. Yung salita, paggawa nyo ng sight words, dapat grade level ng mga bata. Kung grade 7, kunin po ang grade level sight words for grade 7. Kung gagamitin nyo po naman ang mga salita for phonemic awareness, gamitin nyo po ang mga salita na nandun sa mga libro ng inyong grade level. Huwag po kayong gumamit ng ginawa ko kasi ginamit ko po ay para sa early grades at saka sa middle grades po na mga librong ginamit ko. Alright? So it sounds easy, but at first it will be difficult for you. But I hope that you go back, keep on reviewing my session on this so that while you're creating your own instruments, you have a guide. My explanation will be of a guide to create those instruments and then put them together, have one complete early literacy, middle literacy, junior high school literacy diagnostic instruments. Hintayin nyo lang po ang session nyo sa comprehension. I think it's within this week. All right, so let me go back to my PowerPoint presentation. Oh, sorry, stop share and go back to my PowerPoint presentation. There we go. Okay, so these are the basic components of the early literacy diagnostic tool that could be also used for middle grades. Only that in the early grades, in the middle grades, you'll be using the books in the middle grades. So, ang gagamitin po average. Kung ito po ay by grade 3, ang gagamitin po yung mga materyales na pagkukunan ng mga salita at ng mga sounds must be from grade 1 to the middle of grade 3. Kung ito naman po ay para sa grade 6, gagamitin nyo na po mga salitang kukun nyo po. Gagamitin nyo po mga libro or modules na ginamit nyo mula grade 4 o pwedeng grade 3 hanggang grade 6. So, pabalik po kayo. So do not use words that you think your students have acquired. Mas importante po na talagang na-encounter ng bata through instruction. All right? So on that note, I don't know if I still have time. Oh, it's 3:16. So I'm now ready to entertain questions from you people out there. Okay, so open forum, answering questions and clarifying vague concepts. So Michelle, do I have questions? Mitch?
Oh,
Michelle?
Brother Ricky. The first question po is from Miss Rosemary Suniga. Is it all right to teach a kid the English language and translating it right away in Tagalog or Filipino? Will there be a confusion on the kid's part or it will be helpful?
I don't want to say it's translation, but we call it as transition. Kasi literal transition pong tawag natin. But on that note po, for our students to learn the language, that's decoding skills po, that would be of help to our students. Although we do not encourage translation kasi code mixing o code mixing ang tawag po natin doon. So code switching po sana ang ating gagawin. Ibig sabihin, gamitin po natin sa target language first, and then if students do not understand, then we can use equivalent words in Filipino or the mother tongue. Bakit po? Dahil ang focus po natin ay maintindihan ng bata. If our goal of translating or switching to the language of comfortability for our students is more of understanding and teaching them the skill, then that's okay. In fact, it supports. Nakakatulong po yun para sa mga bata. Okay? Yes, I would say yes. It helps greatly, especially in the early grades. Pero pagdating muna po sa high school, hindi na po siya. Ibig sabihin ng mga bata po, kung kailangan po ng translation, kailangan ng translation na teachers sa high school from a target language, then our students have problems with the language. So ibig sabihin, hindi po nila natutunan ng language to use the language in the elementary. So kailangan po sila ng remediation on the language. Maaari pong hindi to reading, maaari po ito ay sa oral language or oral proficiency ng language na yon. Kasi baka hindi nila naintindihan ang mga salita sa English, so that would fall under oral language. So again, kung ang problema natin doon ng mga bata, hindi naintindihan ang salita sa pakikinig, there's a possibility mag-struggle din sila sa reading those words in print. Thank you.
Thank you so much po, Brother Ricky. For the next question is from Miss Ma Rule. M.A. Rule. How can a child comprehend if a child cannot decode?
Oo nga. Alam mo, tama ka, ma'am. Oo, totoo. Yun yung premise po natin. there's no point of saying that the student cannot comprehend if the child is non-decoder of the language. Kaya nga importante muna na makapag-decode ang bata, maturuan ng bata na ma-decode niya yung language so that they can focus on comprehension. Yun lang po kasimple eh. Um, um, Paano mo maintindihan ang kanta? Okay? Maintindihan ang kanta. So nakikinig ka sa kanta, o nanonood ka na lang nanonood ako ng anime. Nanonood ako ng anime, tapos in Japanese. Parang naintindihan ko yung kwento dahil sa action, sa facial expression, pero hindi ko siya maintindihan ng buong buo dahil hindi ko naintindihan ang kanilang salita. Now, para maintindihan ko, makafocus ako sa full comprehension ng pinapanood ko o binabasa ko sa language na yun, I need to decode, learn to decode in using that language. So dapat matutunan ko yung sound system ng language na yon, vocabulary patterns of that word, yung mga tinuro ko sa inyo kanina, yun ang mga decoding skills for me to be able to understand the language or decode the language so that I will be able to understand or read in that language. So tama po kayo talaga, ma'am. So wag po natin sabihin ng mga bata non-reader, baka non-decoder lang po sila. Ngayon kung ang bata tinuruan po natin ng decoding, they can decode, tapos hindi sila makaintindi dahil for lack of comprehension skills naman, we can say non-comprehender. Basta huwag non-reader. Kasi pag sinabi natin non-reader, as in walang-wala talaga. Nakita niyo po ang ating skills ng ating reading comprehension. You have background knowledge. Imposible na wala akong background knowledge ng mga bata. Imposible wala naman talaga silang may lacking lang na component siguro kaya hindi niya intindihan ang kanyang binabasa. So, ngayon, kung ang mga bata po ay decoders na po, anong susunod na step? Turuan na po natin ng comprehension skills. So, there's no point of teaching our students comprehension skills of narratives and comprehension skills for informational text if they are still non-decoders. Tuturuan mo, okay anak, identify sino ang characters. Hindi nga nila mabasa, hindi nga sila decoder, paano nila malalaman at ma-identify kung sino mga characters? It's frustrating on both sides, both the teacher and the student. Kaya importante ay implore all preschool and grade 1 teacher to go through thorough training on teaching decoding. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the last question po is from Mr. Joel
Last na agad. Kaya inaga ako para maraming tanong.
How can diagnosing our learners' decoding skill be possible in distance learning? How can we be sure that their parents or guardians did not teach them the correct answers in their diagnostic test?
There are two ways to do that. Last night, in-explain ko po ay meron po kayong printed kit, yung pinakita kong kit ko ng ganon. May printed kit po kayo, tapos merong manual. Kasi dalawa pong ginawa ko, manual for the ones who are going to administer the diagnostic, and then one for the students. So, isang kit po yun. Alright? So, pwede pong meron kayong kit para sa parents at para sa estudyante. Again, tama ulit po kayo. Paano po nga naman kung ang bibigay po natin ng administration of diagnosis ay sa mga magulang, tapos may mga magulang po talaga na gusto nila talagang palaging pasado ang kanilang anak. So, hindi po tama yung results. Again, so that would be a huge problem. Dapat na-explain po natin talaga sa mga magulang na ano importansya ng diagnosis. Hindi po ito formative assessment, hindi po ito summative assessment, yung diagnosis para matulungan po yung anak nila. So honesty is very important. Now, if they will not be honest, they will not be able to identify the specific weaknesses and strength of their kids. So hindi natin sila mabibigyan ng tamang programa. Ngayon, on the other note, kung talagang wala po kayong tiwala sa mga magulang, you can deliver it online. Pero individualized po siya. So you will have to schedule individual students to assess them online. Yung ikaw lang may hawak nun, tapos yung mga words magfa-flash. Kaya na ginawa ko, magfa-flash lang yung word, tapos gagamitin mo lang ng cursor para makita yung directionality. So it can be delivered online. Kaya lang po sa dami ng estudyante nyo, mag-individual kayo, malaki nga naman problema po yun. So I'm suggesting na ang mangyayari kasi talaga niyan is you're just going to diagnose yung nararamdaman mong estudyante naman nag-struggle. Yun naman ang nangyayari ngayon sa Pilipinas, ang diagnosis natin ay ginagamit lang natin na parang na-identify natin na parang namang problema. Pero para ang the real sense of diagnosis, it's administered to all students. And then from that, we will now be able to identify sino ba talaga sa lahat ma-identify na natin kasi may maraming mga estudyante po na nagpapanggap lang. Okay? So, on that note po, thorough orientation to the parents about how the diagnosis and the purpose of diagnosis or early literacy diagnosis could help us make our parents as partners in the diagnosis of our students' early literacy strengths and weaknesses. Now, if our parents still cannot be trusted, then we can create reading early literacy diagnostic instruments via online. If how to do that, siguro mag-request kayo sa Vibal ng training on that. Pero alam ko nagbigay na po ang Vibal ng online training on how to create online assessments. So you may want to go back to that seminar, how to create online seminars. Pwede pong gamitin po ang Google Docs. So, sir, paano po? Okay, dadagdag ko pang tanong ninyo. Sir, paano po kung may mga estudyante po pwede mag-online, so pwede ko po sila mag-diagnose online. Pero may mga estudyante po talaga wala silang access online. So yun po na lang gagawin po natin. Yung wala pong access online, pwede pong mga magulang na po ang ating hinga ng tulong para ma-diagnose mga bata. On that note, it's very, very, very important na ma-diagnose talaga natin early on, especially for the early grades. Ma-diagnose natin na mas maaga kung ang mga bata ba talaga natin ay may decoding problems. Kasi pag pre-promote po natin ang mga bata niyan sa 4, 5, 6, most of our grade 4, 5, 6 teachers are content area teachers. At ang focus na ngayon is the content. So, tali po ang kamay ng mga, sorry po, talagang naka-action. Tali po ang mga kamay ng mga grade 4, grade 5, grade 6 to finish the curriculum ng content. Tapos nan-decoder ang mga bata. So, ang dilemma ng teacher sa 4, 5, 6 ay bakit nyo promote ang grade itong estudyante na to sa grade 4 na non-reader, non-decoder pa? Paano sila magbabasa sa mga subject areas? What do you expect me to do? I-set aside ang curriculum ko sa content area tapos mag-focus ako sa decoding? Ako naman, ang kawawa naman ang bata na dapat nag-aaral ng content. Pero kawawa pa rin ang bata dahil hindi niya maaaral ang content dahil non-decoder pa rin siya. So, pagdating sa 4, 5, 6, ang mga promoted na mga bata ng decoders becomes a huge problem, not just for teachers, but for the students themselves. They will struggle a lot. Kasi required na nga po sila, expected na sila ng decoder. So I am really imploring that all our grade 1 and grade 3 teachers be given thorough training on how to teach beginning reading, specifically on decoding via online platforms. Okay, sana kaya ka ng training on that. I'll try to think of trainings online, teaching beginning reading through online platforms. I'll try to think about that. All right. Thank you very much for those questions. I think these are some of our struggles right now. Kung malaki pong struggle natin sa face-to-face, mas malaking struggle natin na pagtuturo sa grades 1 to 3 ng beginning reading na ang mga bata po natin ay hindi nakikita kasi kailangan po mayroong oral modeling. Remember, decoding starts with our students be able to listen to sounds and be able to match the speech sounds to print. Eh kung wala po tayong ganong avenue for students to be able to listen to a model of how speech is transitioned to print, then malaki pong problema natin sa mga bata. Magkakaroon po tayo ng mas maraming non-decoders by next school year. Thank you very much. Hindi ko pa yung tinatakot, but this is a reality that's gonna happen if we do not focus on beefing up our pedagogies, especially in teaching beginning reading in the early grades. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Ricky. We have one last pahabol question
Sige po.
from Miss Lema Sapin. I'd like to ask po, my son was diagnosed with dyslexia in reasoning. He can read, can analyze, but cannot create his own scenario or cannot make his own paragraph or syntax of words. He is in grade 6. Please help po.
Kailangan lang po talaga ninyo mag-hire ng reading specialist kasi mag-struggle po siya sa regular subject. Na mainstream po kasi siya, di ba? Kung na mainstream po siya, kung ako po yung consultant po ng school na yun, sasabihin ko po na kung ako po yung consultant, ako magbibigay ng programa sa bata na ang magbibigay po ay mga magulang. Pero kung kayo po ang school na yan ay wala pong reading specialist or consultant po, I would suggest to you na mag-hire po kayo, mag-enlist po kayo ng reading specialist para bigyan po ng mga reading programs ang anak niyo. Kung ako po yan, nakakaisip na po ako ng mga programa kung composition po ang problema ng bata at saka reading problem ng mga bata, guided lang po ang kailangan po. Ang tawag po doon ay guided reading program for the student. Kasi feeling ko ay matalino naman ang anak ninyo, dyslexic nga lang po. So hindi po ibig sabihin na dyslexic po, hindi niya ma-overcome ang skills. Kayang-kaya po ma-overcome po. Ang tawag lang po natin po ay guided. Pero ano po yan talaga? Pure drilling po. Pure drilling. Pero it must be delivered in such a way that your kid is having fun. So marami pong online activity o kung ayaw niyo pong mag-hire ng reading specialist, marami pong mga online applications to help dyslexic students. Marami po akong na-browse over. Pero nga lang, magsa-subscribe kayo. But that would help your kid overcome his or her, babae po ba o lalaki? Lalaki?
Lalaki po.
To overcome his dyslexia. It can be huwag kayong matakot po. That can be treated via guided reading or drilling po. So I'm suggesting po kung wala kayong mapagkakatiwala ang reading specialist sa Pilipinas, pwede po kayong subscribe online. Marami pong online tutorials for students with dyslexia with higher cognitive processing. Sabi niyo po nga, mataas ang cognitive processing anak ninyo, so pwede niyo po kayo magano ng kailangan niyo na lang po ng mga additional activities. Especially kung anak po ninyo ay mahilig sa computer, so mas makakatulong po na talagang application po ang gagamitin po ninyo. Ngayon, kung sa tingin niyo po ay ang anak niyo na po ay may problema naman sa study habits, so kailangan po talagang mag-hire kayo ng tutor. At kung mag-hire po kayo ng tutor, I would highly suggest na po na reading specialist po kasi para matuturuan ng bata na transfer ang kanyang skills in reading to other subject area para double purpose po ang pag-hire ninyo ng reading specialist. Thank you. Hindi po yan matitreat ng mga teachers po sa school nila because their teachers, ang teacher po niya sa school ng mga subjects na yan are concerned in teaching the subject area. Baka ma-compound lang lalo ang problema niya dahil hindi siya nabigyan ng additional program on to treat dyslexia and reading. Thank you.
Thank you po, Brother Ricky. Now we'll proceed to your last reminders for our viewers.
Okay, so just conclusion, tying loose ends. All right. So I would like to mention this: how important early literacy is. Okay, early literacy plays a key role in enabling the kind of early learning experiences that research shows are linked with academic achievement. Okay, if our students become literate at a very young age, it will be easy for them to be able to survive academic demands. It would also reduce grade retention, higher grade graduation rates, and enhance productivity in adult life. In fact, one of the many reasons, I'm not saying this is the only reason, but one of the many reasons why our students drop out of school is because they have low literacy levels. Marami mga estudyante na nagsasabi palagi, one of the comments would say, nahirapan po kasi ako, dami binabasa eh. Wala namang magawa ang mga bata dahil yun po talaga ang demand as they go up to the higher grade levels. Only that they were not given ample opportunity and given explicit instruction to be able to become literate. Pag naging literate lang po talaga sila, ang bilis po mag-aral, ang bilis po magbasa, mabilis po mag-research. It's just they struggle so much because they were not thoroughly taught explicitly the decoding skills and higher forms of reading skills. On that note, I would like to use the statement from Early Grade Reading Assessment of USAID. I was once a consultant of USAID here in the Philippines. They said that research provides evidence specific early literacy concepts can predict young students' literary reading achievement. Ibig sabihin, if we are able to diagnose our students' early literacy weaknesses from grades 1 to grade 3 or grade 2 pa nga lang, then we can do something about that in grade 3. Pwede pa tayo magkaroon ng intervention at saka remediation. In fact, kahit sa grade 3, dahil pagdating nila sa grade 4, pwede pa magkaroon ng intervention program. Pero kung ang mga bata po ay hindi natin na-diagnose, graduate ng grade 6, hindi man lang na-diagnose, kawawa po sila pagdating sa high school, kawawa rin ang teacher sa high school. Because non-decoders sila mapasok sa high school, nako, ang laking problema po ng bata. Kaya maraming bata ang would just give up. Okay? It is needed to help teachers know the skill levels of their students, and students have varying experiences and knowledge. So malalaman po ng through diagnosis po, malalaman ng teacher sino po ang nag-struggle sa phonemic awareness, sino pa ang di marunong ng mga word patterns, sino pa ang di marunong sa sight words, and so on and so forth, para mabibigyan ng kapatang tututukan ng teacher. Hindi sabi niya, may decoding problem ang mga estudyante ko. Ano specifically sa decoding? Is it ang word pattern or sight words? Para angkop ang ibibigay na programa natin sa mga bata. Hindi decoding. Ang lawak ng decoding. Identify ano specifically yung problema ng bata sa decoding. Okay? So, by doing diagnosis, we're able to pinpoint exactly what is the problem of the students. And therefore, teachers are able to give emphasis on that specific weakness or set of weaknesses of our students. And therefore, they will be able to overcome those weaknesses and be able to focus more on reading comprehension. With that, I would say thank you very much for listening. This is the end of my session for diagnosis on reading and literacy. By Friday, I'll be talking about for the preschoolers. So all those parents out there who would like to know more on diagnosing the multi-domain developmental stages of our preschoolers, you may want to tune in because it's more of parenting and more of understanding how our students behave in the early childhood years. With that, thank you very much, and I hope you will carry on. You will take away the things that I've taught you, how to create the tools, and start creating your own instruments in your own schools, and thereby being able to diagnose the strengths and weaknesses of your students. Thank you very much, and have a good day.
There we have it. On behalf of Ibal Group Incorporated, I would like to thank you, Brother Ricky, for being our speaker this afternoon for this insightful learning session. It is truly an honor to have you with us today, brother. And to all our Kalbal viewers, all thanks to you for your continuous patronage to our daily learning sessions. We do encourage you to subscribe and watch on our official Vival Facebook page and YouTube channel. Muli maraming salamat po at magandang araw sa ating lahat. Goodbye everyone!